Quick video today, and as I go through this, I'm going to ask you a tough question. A very tough question, and I would love to hear what you think down in the comment section. I've been one of the harshest critics of a certain perk. That perk is under over. When it came out, I was intrigued. Like a new tool to use. On paper, it looks great, or it looked great. Deals bonus damage to targets with overshields. Deals a small amount of bonus damage to combatant shields. So versus combatant shields, it's 10% more. That's kind of a tough sell. You have things like explosive payload doing 30. You have adaptive munitions. I wish that would be bumped or used a little bit different. The other part is the overshields, and we see overshields a good bit. When an overshield is on an enemy, you deal 20% more damage to that player while the overshield is up. Once the overshield's gone, you're going to deal your base damage. So I even put it on Twitter the other day. The issue that you run into with this perk is it doesn't wash the shield away. It doesn't really combat it, no matter the weapon. I'm going to show you the base thing with Exalted Truth, but whether it be an SMG, whatever it is, it's not really changing anything. Because like on Exalted Truth, base versus the overshield, it's a 4-shot. Then you put on this perk under over for this particular situation, this sole situation, 20% more damage goes to 84, and then it's 70, 70, 70. It's a 4-shot too. So a couple things come up, like number one, you start thinking about what this perk could have been or what it should have been. The second thing is, in what world would you choose a perk which its sole purpose in life, why it was made, is to combat an overshield? That's the only thing that it does. But it doesn't do it well enough that you're gonna get the same results using rangefinder, moving target, because that's what you're doing. You're straight passing on solid perks like rangefinder for this niche thing. This one niche thing that it does not do what it needs to do well enough. Side note, I will say this though, this perk is low key. I never see it used, but I wanted to work with it. Under over absolutely crushes Warlock Rifts. I don't know if that's been said, because remember, anytime an overshield is on a character, you deal 20% more. The Warlock Rift constantly regens. And you saw at the end of the Bastion shield clip, at the very end, it starts getting the overshield back, it clips for 84. So if they're constantly regenning, you're constantly dealing 84. It counters healing rifts. And in reality, we have three main sources of overshields, or will. The Bastion shield, Warlock Rifts, and in Lightfall, there's gonna be a new Void Fragment that gives you an overshield for winning a duel that you should be winning in the first place. So two ways for sure that you see a good amount, the Bastion shield, the Warlock Rifts, and there's a couple outliers that grant overshields, but this perk, like what it could have been. I started thinking about that, using it and thought, wait a second, yeah, what could this have been? And we have build crafting, we have perks, exotics, we can make this work. And the answer is easy. To elevate this perk, the damage needs to be a certain percentage. And this is where the hard counter comes in and the questions start coming. Simply, I've talked about it 3-4 videos in the past year and a half. I have no idea why I still don't see it. It's the Frosty Radiant Gunslinger. Because what happens is under overstacks with Radiant. That means that the 20% that deals 84 on this hand cannon, with Radiant goes to 93, which is 32.85 rounded, 33%. All intents and purposes, this combination is basically Rampage times 3 to an overshield. And that's enough to break it. Let's remember, abilities are getting taken down to where tier 10 is going to be around where tier 8 is. So in Lightfall, the Frosty Acrobatic Dodge for Radiant, keep in mind with this kit, you should be running Solus, so Radiant lasts longer. Double Kickstart. Right here is tier 8, which will be tier 10 in Lightfall. The dodge is going to come back every 21 seconds as long as you're sprinting, and with that Radiant timer, it runs out with 5 seconds left to your next dodge. And keep in mind, you're going to be running place to place. When you spawn in, you're going to be running to the middle of the map. It's going to come up quite a bit. It does come up quite a bit. It can be kind of somewhat looped, and in the in-between, you still have the explosive knife to proc Radiant with Ember of Torches. I am really enjoying this. And also Ace of Spades, Memento Mori, 90 damage without Radiant, doesn't care either. But with this setup, always in Radiant, base hand cannon, 77 to the head. You can 2-crit 1 body. If an overshield comes up, you will 3-tap them violently. So now, I have a tough question for you. I really want to know what you think about this. Overshields are pure gains. Some are free, right? Like a class ability. The purpose of these are to give the person using them an advantage. You're using an advantage of more total health against an opponent. Even with it getting toned down next week, you're still going to see it, and it wins duels. So now, let's imagine a world where Under Over completely washed that overshield, like hard countered it, just like you see right here with the 93 damage. Around 30 to 33% more damage to an overshield, completely wash it out. Make that advantage irrelevant. There starts becoming multiple sides to the coin. Because if a player is using something like an overshield to get a clear advantage over another, especially if it can spread to nearby allies, like you just throw down the shield, all of a sudden 5 other enemies have an overshield, right? for free? Do you think on the other end, there should be a hard counter to that? Saying that, you know what, this is the line, no further. Because on one end, the overshield is cake on top. You can literally run anything you want with your build. Any weapon, any exotic. Most are using Bastion or whatever gives you an overshield or DR because it's a clear choice. Nothing really counters it. The other end is a choice. For giving perks, great perks, no matter the situation, rangefinder, moving target, whatever it is, you're setting those aside for this situation. Only for those players. And you know what? If there aren't any of those players, say the full lobby, the full fire team is Strand, the perk is literally useless. And even with under over on an overshield, you still have to land your shots to 3-tap. And with under over doing more damage, being a hard counter, maybe it can go a step further. Maybe if Cure is on a player's screen, you deal 20% more damage to them. If Restoration's on their screen, you deal 20% more damage. If it's an overshield, 33% more. And a side note, with ability cooldowns taking longer, do not forget about Frosties, especially the Frosty Radiant Hunter. But again, all of these things are to gain a clear advantage, saying, hey, I'm resetting this fight. I can take more damage. You can't unless you're running this. I messed up, it's okay. I'm getting more health, I'm getting restoration. I have an overshield, big gains. So why shouldn't there be something to counter it and counter it harshly? The gameplay shows you how that would go. So should under over be similar to what this is, what you're seeing? Because it wouldn't make overshields irrelevant or warlock rifts. It just wouldn't be as an advantage as they are. Not everyone's gonna be running under over and not everyone's gonna be running overshields. There will be variety. When it first came out and I tested it, wasn't impressed in a vacuum setting, and I ran it for a little bit, not impressed. Like, again, it really felt like nothing was there because it's so situation dependent, obviously. And when those situations came up, it's like you didn't really have the perk at all. And back then, I didn't notice the warlock rifts. I am glad that I came back to it, looked into it a little bit more, because this does work. I tried other things and not really sure anything can quite pull it off like this. That's for Titan Warlock or other ways on Hunter. All it needs is that damage percentage to be a little bit higher, and Radiant achieves that. We don't know what we don't know about Strand. I haven't seen anything from the articles or in the Vidocs talking about getting more damage with Strand. We have things like Woven Mail, and that's going to be kind of a hard counter to playing over shields and things like that because they have to hit you in the head. The body damage is going to be reduced. So I would love to hear what you think. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button, and if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. A lot of this isn't going to come up because probably everyone's going to be running Strand. There will come a time, though, where people start going back to certain things. I never see under over. That's exactly why. But with Radiant and Frosties, it actually works really, really well. Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.